What is going on, trainers? DrumVillain here, bringing you some more Pokemon Go PvP content, and today we're taking a look at the Fantasy Cup, which is an Ultra League meta that's in for this week alongside the Great League with the start of the new season of Go Battle League. And it's quite a, well, honestly I thought it was going to be a terrible meta when they first announced this, with it being Dragon, Fairy and Steel, but Steel resists the other two, so surely what's the competition here? Steel type's going to run rampant and all that. But it is somewhat interesting actually in how it's played out, and it's still fairly limited to a few overpowered Pokemon, things like Registeel and Tapu Fini. But I wanted to try something a little bit outside the box, give it a go, and it turned out it worked reasonably well and caught a lot of teams off guard and really threw some opponents off. So I wanted to share it with you guys, and that is going to be Heatran. Now, Heatran historically doesn't have the best use in PvP, but it's Fire and Steel, and it is quite interesting for this meta in particular because there aren't that many viable Steel types that aren't just going to get absolutely shut down by their hard counters, especially Escavalier and Lucario, which are the more popular counter users in this meta because they have to be part Steel or Fairy or whatever to get into this meta. And the Fire Spin from Heatran's going to be hitting them for super effective damage. It's quite a hard hitter. The Iron Head can smash the Fairies to pieces while still resisting that charm. It's resisting Dragon damage. So I think it's got a bit of a unique role to play. And while it's not the most hard meta pick for this cup, and you are going to still lose some matchups by it being hard shut down by things like Empoleon, and Tapu Fini gives it quite a hard time as well. But you're going to catch a lot of opponents off guard, and I've won quite a few games using this thing when it's been lined up against Escavalier or Lucario in the back, and that Fire Spin damage is just too much for an opponent to cope with in the end game. So if you're not already subscribed, be sure to do that, it helps me out a lot, and let's jump into taking a proper look at the team overall. On the lead, we're bringing Shadowclaw Giratina because Shadowclaw Giratina is just very, very strong in this meta in general. There's not really anything present that's going to be resisting that ghost damage. The Shadow Sneaks can add up quite a lot. The Dragon Claw is very good for neutral damage against several targets present in this meta. And also, surprisingly, you can use it as a counter to Tapu Fini. And because of the nature of the team that we're running, we really do need it to be a Tapu Fini counter. And as long as you shield up a Moonblast, you can pretty much do all the work that you need to do on a Tapu Fini using Giratina. And if they do bait you with a Surf, it can be a little bit problematic. But overall, I like Giratina on the lead, and it does suit this line for the most part because it does beat most of those counter users that are present as well. Because in the back, we're bringing the Heatran that we were just talking about, and also we're bringing Registeel, which if we do need to say swap, we're going to be pivoting to Registeel to bait out the strongest Steel counter, and then hopefully saving shields for that Heatran and hoping it can sweep in the end game. Now, this is by no means a cheap team. This is 3 legendary Pokemon, and of course you are going to probably want them all double moved, which is going to cost 100,000 dust on top. But the slight saving grace is that these aren't XL. Well, Registeel can be an XL Pokemon, sort of generally it's a very expensive Pokemon in general. But Giratina and Registeel are definitely Pokemon that are worth building for the Ultra League in general if you don't already have them built. So they are worthwhile investments that are going to go to good use outside this cup as well. Heatran, I wouldn't build an Ultra League Heatran if you don't have one ready, or you don't play maybe like Sylph factions or anything like that where you're going to be in the Ultra League and you might be able to put it to some unique use. My Heatran is just a 91% IVs, it's not good PvP IVs or anything like that. But I had one double moved and I just wanted to give it a bit of a go, and honestly I'm really surprised with how well it played off, and hopefully it encourages you guys, if not to use Heatran yourselves, but to just think a little bit more outside the box in some of these metas and try something different, because it can just pull your wins on throwing opponents out alone as well as the actual play it has. Not to mention there are quite a few double charm teams out there that this team shuts down very, very well, and also the teams that run double counter in the back, like you see a lot of teams that might have Lucario and Excadrill in the back, and Heatran destroys Escadrill because you are taking super effective. If you've got one shield to shield up a drill run, Heatran can just farm down Escavalier entirely, and then you got a bunch of energy, which even though it's Iron Head and Flamethrower, which aren't the strongest, most efficient PvP moves, Heatran's pretty attack weighted. They're going to hit pretty much anything in the meta for neutral damage, and that's very, very nice position to be in general. In this matchup, for example, we did have the Registeel against us on the lead, and they did get the Zap Cannon debuff, so we swapped into Heatran to tempt them to swap out, and we did bait out an Escavalier, and we've just committed one shield, farmed it down entirely, because the counter damage is not going to keep up with double super effective Fire Spins, and now we can throw a couple of Iron Heads into this Giratina that's decided to come in, and we can just start chipping this thing down and put ourselves in a strong position for the end game to be able to take out their Registeel still. On another side note, Our Registeel is running Flash Cannon rather than Zap Cannon. That's just for the slight more versatility within this meta specifically. In the Ultra League in general, you are probably going to still want Zap Cannon on your Registeel, but Flash Cannon's still very, very strong and doesn't require an elite charge TM if you don't have the legacy move Zap Cannon on your Registeel. I think Flash Cannon's slightly preferable for this meta, but I don't know if I'd recommend TMing away Zap Cannon to get Flash Cannon. And I also wouldn't recommend building a second Registeel for Ultra League because that's very, very expensive. So whatever Registeel you've got on hand will work just fine. But I prefer Flash Cannon on this team, myself specifically. Now this opponent here, I believe, realises that there isn't much they can do at this point. We've still got a very healthy Registeel in the back, so I believe they just let this through and let themselves be taken out and surrender the game there. And it's going to be a GG. Giratina, as always, super spammy with those Dragon Claws and Shadow Claw combination, putting in a ton of work in a lot of games for this team. Right, this matchup we've got Tapu Fini on the lead, and like we've said, we want really to catch Tapu Finis on the lead. A lot of opponents stay in because they see this as a positive matchup. It's a fairy type against a dragon type, of course, but you're going to be running Shadow Claw, so they're not going to be resisting these fast moves and these charge moves, and it is going to add up. So we're going to choose to shield up because they've built up enough energy for a Moonblast. It is the Moonblast, that's completely fine for us. And now we're going to be able to get to 2 more Shadow Sneaks before this Tapu Fini gets another Moonblast, which means if they want switch advantage, I want to fight for it, they've got to give us that shield back. If not, then we're going to be very comfortable because we're going to have very healthy Giratina and 2 healthy Steels in the back. They choose to let Tapu go down. They bring in Registeel, and we're going to aggressively swap out into Heatran because people panicking in those moments don't think about the fact that Registeel does quite well against Heatran because it can one-shot it with the Focus Blast. You can take those Fire Spins reasonably comfortably because Registeel's so bulky. And we've baited out a Lucario, which is vital that we've pulled it out because Lucario, if it got past the Giratina, will be able to power up Punch, rack up its damage, and sweep through both Registeel and probably Heatran as well, because although those Fire Spins are super effective, Lucario's counters really do add up fast. So now we're left with a healthy Giratina, a full health Registeel against their Registeel, and we're in a very, very strong position here because we're able to keep chipping down with these ghost moves, and they're going to have to throw energy to take us out. They can't farm us down. If they do get the Zap Cannon debuff, which I believe they do, we're going to pivot out to Registeel to force that last shield out of them and clear that attack debuff, just so those ghost moves add up a little bit more in the end game to take them out before they're able to finish off Giratina, because they still realistically need 1 more charge move to knock out Giratina, which is a very, very nice position to be in. So we're going to go ahead, throw the Flash Cannon, force that last shield, because there's no way they weren't going to shield that move. And even if they hadn't and they let the Flash Cannon through, they would have been in probably Shadow Claw downrange anyway. So they take us out, that's fine. And we're going to just be able to ideally make it to a Shadow Sneak, and then I think a Dragon Claw straight after should just take them out, because this is going to be a little bit close. No, we go to the Shadow Sneak, that's fine. It's going to finish them off, and that's going to be a good game. Now, I'm not going to mince words. Is Heatran better than the other top Pokemon in this cup? No. No, it isn't, because it can't take a Focus Blast from Registeel. Some of the counter users like Lucario can get through you as much as you can put some good work in back. They are going to be able to win that matchup overall, and you are going to be losing to Tapu Fini with the Heatran, which is a pretty big loss in this meta because Tapu Fini is easily one of the strongest Pokemon in this cup. But this was the beginning of the season. This was in the first couple of days of this newest season. It was just before the weekend these battles were recorded, and I've just had a bit of a hectic weekend to actually get around to putting this video together for you guys. But it's always a lot of fun at the start of the season when the pressure's a little bit lower to try some different teams out, try a few unique things out, and just see how it goes. It's a good opportunity, like I said, to experiment with new Pokemon and just get outside the box a little bit if you're someone that normally plays just the top meta consistently, and that can get a little bit dull. So it's always nice to have fun at the start of the season. And as I keep saying, surprising opponents can be half the battle in winning a match. Just having something unusual that they're not expecting or ready for or know how to handle can just make all the difference in a lot of matchups. Now, Giratina, you're going to want to keep your Heatran away from Giratinas because they are resisting the Fire Spins, and those Shadow Claws and Shadow Sneaks are going to be adding up pretty fast. And also, the Flash Cannon does help you a lot in this matchup on Registeel. Being able to just throw Flash Cannons, because Zap Cannon's okay when you were getting the guaranteed debuff. Zap Cannon was strong against Giratina. Now, it's not as consistent in being punishing in that matchup, because if you're not getting those 50-50% debuff on the Giratinas, then the ghost damage keeps adding up faster and faster, and you need to, I think, land 4 zap cannons to take out a Giratina, whereas I think it's only 3 flash cannons, which is also less energy to get to. And if the Giratina's got any chip damage from any other sources, it'll be very close to farm down range as well, just on 2 flash cannons. So here we see a Togekiss come in, and it's going to have absolutely nowhere to go against our Heatran. We're just going to keep chipping away. The Ancient Power, you can see, it's just an Ancient Power, but it does do big damage against Heatran, about 30% or so, just because we're quite squishy, and it is neutral because of our fire typing as well as the steel. But we're double resisting the charm, so they were doing basically nothing to us. And we're going to have extra energy, take out the Giratina, and it's going to be a GG. And a lot of opponents do run the strategy of swapping something in to try and pull out your steel type to clear the way for a charmer in the back. And this team, like I say, is going to absolutely shut down that strategy because charm's got nowhere to go in the back of this team unless it's on lead, which you've got 2 steels to try and pivot around and figure that out with. But really, charms in the back just get absolutely shut down, and the lead that you get from handling that charmer so strongly makes most matchups really impossible for an opponent to deal with. Now this matchup is a bit of an odd one because we've got the Tapu Fini lead, which we give up the shield on the Moonblast, that's fine. They don't shield the Shadow Sneaks and let the Tapu Fini go down, which is fair enough, that's a fair choice. But then they just surrender, and I guess they might have realised that they messed up and didn't actually have another way to deal with the Giratina or something. I'm not sure, but either way, GG's to the opponent, and we're going to move on into the next game. Empoleon lead. Now, this isn't as common as you get a little bit higher in the ranks, I don't think, in this cup, because it really does struggle against like Escav and Lucario and Giratina, but it's got interesting play, and we do not want to get it anywhere near Heatran. Heatran will get absolutely smashed to pieces by those waterfalls, so it's going to stay with Giratina. We know that if they pivot out, we've got the versatility of Registeel being able to take it out with the Focus Blast as well. So seeing it on the leads, pretty positive situation. We're not going to bother shielding because they're not building up to a blizzard or anything like that, so we're not threatened. And now they swap out into Excadrill, and our Giratina's low. So this is a bad situation, right? This Excadrill is going to be able to sweep us, right? Because Registeel can't really keep up because the drill runs outpace you so heavily and you're depending on the Focus Blast. But this is what we're going to do. Staying with Giratina, throw the Shadow Sneaks, one fast move before they keep getting to more drill runs, and chip them down. And we're going to get them down into Fire Spin range. Now, we're not going to show this up. They've got excess energy. We're going to let it go. It's not worth the Shadow Sneak. But we're going to stay in here, shield up this drill run because double super effective. It'll smash us to pieces. And now we're just going to go for the opponent. They swap out to Empoleon to try and, I don't know if they're trying to catch something or what, but it gives us 1 extra Fire Spin, which means that we make it to this Iron Head, whereas otherwise we'd have had to be maybe thinking about trying to catch a drill run on Registeel just to preserve Heatran a little bit more. But look at the damage we've done there to the Escav. It is now definitely in flash cannon range. We can survive 2 drill runs as well as a few counters, so we're going to be able to get there and take them out absolutely no problem. If the opponent had just stayed in with Excadrill against Heatran and not panicked, they would have made it to a drill run before we were able to farm them down or get to the Iron Head. We'd have had to catch on Registeel potentially, and then the damage might have been done on Registeel for us to not be able to handle the Escavalier as well, although we would arguably have been able to then farm down with extra energy to maybe get a flamethrower on the Escavalier. So it would have been a little bit closer, but the opponent did definitely fumble that matchup a little bit, but no disrespect to them, it's GG's, it's well played, and like I said, something like Heatran throws opponents out and people make mistakes. Right, this matchup we got another Empoleon lead, and this opponent's going to swap out into Registeel, and a Registeel say swap isn't that nice for this team to deal with because Heatran isn't a hard counter. Like I said, we can't take a Focus Blast to save his life, and our Registeel would be coming in behind on energy, so we'd lose that matchup as well. So we're going to choose to stay with Giratina here, throw some Shadow Sneaks and soften them up, and then they're probably going to throw a Zap Cannon, right? Maybe they throw a Zap, maybe it's a Flash Cannon. Zap Cannon. Now we're going to swap to our Registeel because they are in very, very close to a single Focus Blast range, if not already in a single Focus Blast range. We can take this, they need to land 2 to take us out, get some extra energy, and then they either have to give up a shield or give up switch advantage, even though we did stay in a little bit, so our switch timers are completely out of sync. The opponent brings in an Escavalier. We're going to make it to a Focus Blast, which is either going to do big damage or force a shield out of them, so a very nice position to be in here. And we're going to have to come in with Heatran to this Escavalier, because Heatran has nowhere to go. It's either dealing with Escav or it's dealing with Empoleon. This Escav's got energy, so we've got to shield up these draw runs. And they swap out to Empoleon. We can bring in Giratina. And I believe we're not going to shield this up now. When it's a Hydro Cannon, doesn't even quite take us out. And this is absolutely clutch in this game. So we can get the Shadow Sneak off, which they're not going to shield up. Puts them very close to Fire Spin range down. They realise, let us farm them down because they need the extra energy on Escavalier. But they're not going to make it to 2 draw runs. Those double super effective Fire Spins are far too hard to deal with. And they're going to get farmed down entirely and go down with a shield. Right, last matchup, and this includes what you might think is an absolutely crazy play, but it really is just the way to play this team in these kind of situations. Escadrill on the lead, right? Pretty good lead because you're getting those neutral ghost moves through. Escadrill's pretty squishy, you can survive 2 draw runs easily, whereas 1 Shadow Sneak and then a bunch of Shadow Claws is going to get quite threatening over time. We are probably going to let this move go, which will get us reasonably low, but not all the way down. And they're going to swap out into Escavalier. So we throw a Shadow Sneak just to take a second to think about what to do. And we're going to bring in Heatran. And you might think, oh my god, bringing a Steel into an Escavalier is insane. But yeah, like we've just seen before, this is double super effective. Should at 1 draw run, farm them down entirely. And then we've got energy to throw out this Escadrill that comes in, which is getting close to being in Fire Spin down range as well. I'm going to get a shield out of him with the Iron Head. They are going to make it to 1 more draw run, which I think we're going to shield up, yeah. Shield up, see what they got in the back. And it's Empoleon, so really the shield's been a little bit wasted on Heatran, because Registeel with that shield would have done just fine. But not to worry, we get a shield with the Iron Head, and now it's going to get to 1 Focus Blast and absolutely smash this Empoleon into next week. And that's going to give us our 10th game in a 10-game win streak using Heatran, which I didn't think was too bad at all. And there were a couple of ex-Legend Rank trainers in here as well, so very, very nice to see that using something a little bit spicy can still pay off in these unique metas that Niantic's throwing at us. So let me know what you think of the team and Heatran down below. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to hit the like button. I really do appreciate it. If you already subscribed to the channel, you're an absolute legend, and I will catch all of you guys next time.